Biggest disappointment of the season, guys. I usually let you guys go first. I'm going to throw mine out there. It is the handling of the quarterback. So we can talk about a specific player. We can talk about a concept. We can talk about a game, wherever you want to go right now on the message board. And John, let me lead with you. To me, it's just the way they handled the quarterback situation, because I thought there was a glass ceiling from the get. And as it turns out, like usual, you usually say, I was right.
Yeah, I guess I look at the quarterback situation differently because I really thought Joe Milton, put too much stock in the Orange Bowl game and perhaps gave him too much credit for that. I thought he played very well in a high pressure situation. There's a lot of pressure on him to do well because it was kind of up to him whether Tennessee would win or lose. He threw 3 touchdown passes. I know there were a lot of there were a lot of 3 and outs, and people mentioned those, but that was not. I guess that wasn't the Joe Milton I was expecting to see. I wasn't thinking he'd be that good. So when he was that good, it really increased my opinion of him. And I thought, yeah, Tennessee can win with this guy. I thought they had the necessary pieces around him to be successful and win 10 games. Very wrong on all that. But I do think, so I guess I was disappointed. Yeah, the handling of it, because Josh Heupel was wrong about Joe Milton. I mean, that has been one of the biggest biggest impacts of anything with UT football the last couple of years. He was wrong about Joe Milton. So that's part of it. But I also thought Joe Milton would be better than he has been.
And John, also this season, it has had as big an effect on anything in the SEC that occurred during the season, other than Nick Saban finding Jalen Milroe, which worked out on the flip side. Scott says, absolutely, Dave, 100%. We would have never seen Hendon if Joe hadn't gotten hurt. And then I don't know where he was going to go. So what about you? What's the biggest standout disappointment from this season that's probably going to end up at 8-4?
Look, it's Joe Milton, but it's a specific aspect to Joe Milton's game, which is this. The Clemson defense last year played bear coverage over the middle, and Joe Milton completed a lot of passes over the middle. And I said, Dave, on our post-game show with me, you, and Caleb Gyro were on that post-game show. I remember it distinctly last year after Tennessee beat Clemson. I said, this is a huge deal. The clock's been reset against Joe Milton. It's going to reset how defenses are going to have to play. They're going to have to respect the middle of the field. This whole year happened. I have never seen a quarterback have worse touch on passes over the middle of the field than Joe Milton. I don't mind, actually, the inaccuracy on the deep ball, because I knew that with Josh Heupel's scheme, even if you're not accurate on the deep ball, you're still going to hit 3 of 10. Sometimes in 3 of 10, they all usually go for touchdowns. I mean, Hooker hit about 5 of 10. So I didn't mind that. The reason the deep ball was never there is because nobody had to respect the middle of the field at all, because Joe Milton has 0 touch over the middle of the field. And if you're going to throw a bullet, I talked about this yesterday with John, because I think Dave brings up Brett Favre a lot. But if you're going to throw a bullet over the middle of the field, it's got to hit the receiver directly in the chest. It can't be a little bit off where a receiver has to make a play on it. And Joe Milton throws a bullet that doesn't hit the receiver directly in the chest.
Yeah, you don't make back shoulder catches on a 100-mile-an-hour fastball. You're right.
Yeah.
You're right. It's got to be right there for you, and that was very challenging. Another thing, Dave, that it's related to the passing game. I really thought this receiving core would be better.
Well,
I know Brew McCoy got hurt, but I thought the 3 guys, Brew, Squirrel White, and Ramel Keaton, would be better as a group.
Here were my thoughts heading into the season. Obviously, I didn't know Brew McCoy was going to get injured. I thought they would be very good. I thought that, especially with a lot of the over the middle passing routes that we saw in the Orange Bowl, I thought that Squirrel White would be highly as effective. They've wasted a year with Squirrel White because Joe Milton was a quarterback, period. Ramel Keaton is just a really good player. So if you go to our poll question on YouTube, you can vote for this question. How much doubt do you have in Josh Heupel? Some, enough, too much. Some leads with 74%, enough, 4%, too much, 22%. We had this question on the YouTube channel. Why is there none option for Heupel concern? Because if you're not concerned about a coach in his third season that took a step back, I don't know what to tell you. If you're not concerned about anybody that takes over your program, not named Saban, who were the locks during your generation? I thought Dan Mullen was going to be a lock. I thought Urban Meyer was a lock. Those were my 3 locks in my lifetime, and I was just 2 for 3. John, how many locks as a coach do you think there have been?
Well, I think Urban Meyer was a lock. I thought Steve Spurrier was a lock.
Can I actually ask you that, John?
Doubted him
when he was hired.
Yes.
Okay.
Quick question before we move on with the Spurrier thing, because I brought this up yesterday, John, and I wanted to get your thoughts. What's the difference between Heupel having a 4-loss season this year, all blowout losses, and Spurrier in 1992, which was his 3rd year? He had 4 blowout losses to Florida State, Tennessee, and I think Mississippi State were part of that.
Yeah, if you look at it from in that context, you could say, yeah, Josh Heupel's another Spurrier. I've used a Spurrier comparison a lot with Josh Heupel because of what they can do offensively. However, and they each had their own system. I'm not looking at it so much from the record. I mean, you can go from 11-2, lose your key players, go from 11-2 to say 9-4, which Tennessee could obviously finish at that level, and it not be alarming at all. It to me, it just keeps getting back to this thing about the quarterback. I mean, it wasn't like a 1-year deal. It was something that started in 2021 when he handpicked Joe Milton. My point on that, I think Steve Spurrier knew who could run his offense, who would be effective in his offense. He didn't take the 5 stars. He picked guys that worked in that system like Danny Werfel, Rex Grossman did, even Shane Matthews, whom he inherited. So I think it's more about that. To me, is kind of glaring. That's the only issue I have with Josh Heupel in offense. It's just you thought this guy would make this offense go full bore, score 40 points a game. And that would be my only concern. It wouldn't be the record. Yeah, anybody could drop. Things could happen, and you could have a drop off in a 3rd season.
Any other concerns? Rocky Top Tom says decisions on conditioning properly, hitting in practice, play calling, etc. I do have a concern about them not hitting in practice. They don't hit very much in practice. I think that's the way to be a better football team. I don't want to get into the all gory details of that and why I believe that makes you a better football team. I think it does make you tougher, but Josh Heupel is not alone in limiting contact. Conditioning, that's come up a couple of different times, John. Did you see, Tennessee's a highly conditioned team. Did you see any instances where players weren't conditioned against Georgia? Caleb, I want to get you on that too, but I didn't see that, but I've heard it like 3 or 4 times on social media.
I think when you look at it, you're watching a game and a team fades, you say, well, it was conditioning. I mean, that's a natural response. I think all college football players are really well conditioned. There aren't any great secrets in strength and conditioning. Everybody has a strength and conditioning coach. They all seem to come from the same family, same genetic code. They can all scream a lot and get you to lift more and go harder, lift higher, run faster. All right, he's a strength and conditioning coach. Good for him. So, yeah, I don't put a lot of stock in that. I mean, sometimes when you got a good team playing a not so good team, it takes a while for the good team's talent advantage to assert itself. You've seen it in a lot of games, not just Tennessee, where the preeminent team starts out kind of slowly, it's finding its way, the underdog's hanging in there, and then as the game goes on longer, the better team establishes its superiority.
Well, and Tennessee used to be that program when they would play Vanderbilt and Kentucky late in the season. Eventually, their talent would just win out.